She's not falling for the man who tries the hardest. She's falling for the man who knows something you don't. Most men believe attraction is about constant praise, chasing, and making her feel special every second. They pour on the compliments, respond instantly, and think that if they just prove they're the nice guy, she'll choose them. But deep down, you already know how that story ends. She loses interest. She pulls away. And you're left wondering what went wrong. Here's the truth. Women don't fall for the man who gives them everything up front. They fall for the man who creates a pull they can't quite explain. A man who doesn't just hand over all his attention, but makes his presence feel rare, valuable, and unpredictable. This isn't about playing games or being cold. It's about understanding the deeper psychology of attraction and how to hold yourself like a man she can't stop thinking about, without chasing, without begging, and without losing yourself in the process. In this video, I'm going to show you exactly what that something is. We'll break it into clear principles, real-world examples, and timeless Stoic truths that put you back in control of the game and of yourself. By the end, you won't just understand why she falls for certain men. You'll become one of them. Let's get into it. Section 1. The validation trap. Most men have been conditioned to believe that if you just make a woman feel good about herself all the time, she'll want you more. You've probably heard the advice: tell her she's beautiful every day. Always let her know you're thinking about her. Make sure she knows you'll do anything for her. On paper, it sounds romantic. In reality, it's the fastest way to drain the mystery out of an interaction and slide straight into the friend zone. Validation is not the same as attraction. Attraction grows from attention, a pull between wanting and wondering, and when you flood her with validation, you remove that pull. You make yourself predictable, and predictable is rarely exciting. Take Mark, 48, divorced for 3 years. He meets Emily, 44, at a mutual friend's dinner party. They hit it off. Mark feels the spark and decides to secure the connection by sending her daily good morning texts, complimenting her looks constantly, and letting her know she's the most amazing woman he's ever met. Within 2 weeks, Emily stops responding with the same enthusiasm. Why? Because she no longer has to wonder how he feels, and without that curiosity, her emotional investment fades. This isn't about withholding kindness or being manipulative. It's about understanding that when you give someone a constant stream of praise, it can lose its meaning. Think of it like a rare wine. Part of its value is that you can't have it every day. The moment it's always on the table, it becomes ordinary. From a psychological perspective, this ties into what's called cognitive ease. Our brains tend to undervalue what's easy to get and overvalue what's scarce. Women are no different. When a man's attention and admiration are too easy, it feels less valuable. If you want to avoid the validation trap, you have to shift your mindset. Stop thinking your role is to convince her of your value. Instead, live in a way that naturally shows it. Compliments should be earned, not handed out like participation trophies. And when you do give one, it should land with impact because it's rare and sincere. Mark learned this the hard way. After Emily pulled back, he decided to stop chasing and return to his life, his workouts, his business, his hobbies. A few weeks later, Emily reached out, curious about what he'd been up to. The dynamic shifted, because now she had a reason to wonder again. Men who understand this don't rush to fill every silence with reassurance. They're comfortable letting her feel a little uncertainty, not because they're playing games, but because they understand that genuine attraction needs space to breathe. If you catch yourself giving constant validation, pause and ask, am I doing this because I genuinely feel it right now, or because I'm afraid of losing her? That one question can save you from pouring all your power into someone else's hands. Now I want to hear from you. Drop a quick comment below using this short, powerful phrase, I hold back. Say it to remind yourself that your value doesn't come from over-giving. It comes from knowing when to give at all. And don't go anywhere. because what we're about to talk about next will show you how to build something even more powerful than praise, a subtle psychological gap that makes her lean toward you without you even moving. Section 2. The psychological gap. Attraction isn't just about what you give, it's about what you hold back. Most men make the mistake of closing the distance too quickly. They want to remove all uncertainty, lay everything on the table, and make their feelings crystal clear from day one. It feels honest, it feels straightforward, but in doing so, they erase one of the most powerful forces in human relationships, the gap. The psychological gap is the space between what she knows and what she wants to know. It's that subtle tension when she's not entirely sure where she stands with you, not in a toxic, confusing way, but in a way that sparks curiosity and keeps her mind engaged. When she's left wondering, she's thinking about you, and thinking is the first step toward feeling. Stoic philosopher Epictetus once said, "If you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid." In the context of attraction, this means you must be willing to let someone sit in their uncertainty about you without rushing to fix it. It takes discipline to resist the urge to explain yourself or prove your worth every moment. That discipline is exactly what keeps the gap alive. Think about it. When a man's every thought, every emotion, every intention is instantly available, there's no mystery left. It's like reading the last page of a book. Before you've reached the middle, the journey loses its power. By contrast, when a man moves at his own pace, reveals himself selectively, and keeps a part of his inner world reserved, he becomes someone she wants to learn more about. This doesn't mean you play hot and cold or act disinterested. The gap is not about manipulation, it's about pacing. It's showing her that your attention is valuable because it's not given to everyone, and your presence is meaningful because it's not always available. It's the art of leaving room for her to step toward you, rather than filling all the space yourself. From a psychological standpoint, the gap leverages something called the Zeigarnik effect, the human tendency to remember and focus more on unfinished interactions than completed ones. When every interaction with you feels complete because you've said and shown everything, she moves on mentally. But if you leave things slightly unfinished, a story half told, a thought you'll share later, a day without immediate replies, her mind keeps circling back. The Stoics taught self-mastery as the highest form of power. And in relationships, mastery of your own availability is one of the clearest ways to demonstrate that power. You show her and yourself that you don't need constant affirmation to feel secure. You're not filling the gap for her comfort, you're holding it for your own standard. When you start practicing this, you'll notice two things. First, women respond by leaning in, texting you first, asking more questions, and making more effort to engage. Second, you'll feel less pressure to perform or overextend yourself. The gap works both ways. It gives her room to desire you, and it gives you room to breathe. Here's what I want you to do right now. Comment with the phrase, "I hold the gap." Say it as a reminder that attraction isn't built by constant closeness, but by the space that keeps curiosity alive. And stay tuned, because in the next part, we're going to talk about something that takes this principle even deeper, the sovereignty principle, where your independence becomes the most powerful force in the dynamic. Section 3. The sovereignty principle. If you strip away all the games, strategies, and dating hacks, one truth remains. A man who stands on his own 2 feet is far more attractive than one who leans on someone else for his sense of self. This is the sovereignty principle, the idea that you are the ruler of your own life, and nothing, not even romantic interest, can shake that foundation. Women are instinctively drawn to men who carry themselves like their own world is already full, not busy in a fake, "I'm ignoring you" way, but genuinely rich with purpose, interests, and self-respect. When a man's identity isn't defined by her approval, she feels the weight of his presence without him having to demand her attention. Let me give you a picture. David, 52, runs a small but successful construction company in Colorado. He's been divorced for 4 years. When he meets Rachel, 46, at a local charity event, they click right away. But unlike the younger men she's been talking to, David doesn't drop everything to fit her into his schedule. He doesn't cancel his Friday fly fishing trip with his brother because she's free that night. He invites her to join him the following weekend instead. At first, Rachel isn't sure what to make of it. She's used to men rearranging their lives just to see her. But as she spends more time with David, she notices something. His boundaries make his attention feel valuable. He's not rude or dismissive. In fact, he's warm and engaged when they're together. But she can see that his life doesn't revolve around her. That stability is magnetic. From a deeper perspective, sovereignty is about emotional independence. It means you don't outsource your happiness to someone else's actions. You control what you can control, and you let go of what you can't. This is pure Stoic philosophy. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." In the context of relationships, this means your mood, your energy, and your sense of self aren't at the mercy of her texts, her approval, or her interest. Here's the twist most men miss. Sovereignty doesn't push women away, it pulls them in. A man who owns his time, his decisions, and his emotional state communicates security. And security, when paired with a touch of mystery, is intoxicating. The opposite of sovereignty is neediness, a state where your self-worth rises and falls on her reaction to you. It's exhausting for both sides, and it often kills attraction before it has a chance to grow. When you hold your ground, you signal that you can walk away if necessary, not because you don't care, but because you value yourself too much to compromise your standards. David didn't set out to play hard to get with Rachel. He simply lived by his priorities. And over time, that made her want to be part of his world, not the other way around. If you're serious about embodying this principle, start by asking yourself, if she disappeared tomorrow, would my life still feel meaningful? If the answer is yes, you're already on the right track. If the answer is no, it's time to build that meaning through your work, your hobbies, your friendships, and your own personal growth. Now, I want you to make a declaration in the comments. Write, "I rule me," because until you own yourself, you can't expect anyone else to truly respect you. And stick around, because in the next section we're going to explore a surprising twist, how introducing the right kind of subtle challenge can flip the dynamic and make her start investing more in you. Section 4. The subtle challenge. One of the biggest mistakes men make once they have a woman's attention is trying to keep it by becoming overly agreeable. They think, if I just say yes to everything she wants, if I avoid any friction, she'll like me more. On the surface, it sounds logical, but in reality, it has the opposite effect. It makes you predictable, easy to read, and eventually boring. The subtle challenge is about keeping the dynamic alive without creating drama. It's not about arguing for the sake of it, but about showing you have your own mind, your own perspective, and the confidence to stand by them. This creates a push-pull tension that keeps her engaged, because it signals you're a man who can't be molded into whatever she wants at the moment. Think about it. Attraction thrives on a certain level of friction. If everything is too smooth, too easy, it slides into comfort, and comfort, while nice, doesn't keep desire burning. The subtle challenge reintroduces a spark. It makes her think, I can't quite pin him down, and I like it. From a Stoic perspective, this is simply living in alignment with your principles. Epictetus taught, first say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do. If you've already defined your values, you won't compromise them just to please someone else. That's not stubbornness, it's self-respect. And women can feel the difference between a man who bends because he's flexible and a man who bends because he's afraid of losing her. The key is subtlety. A challenge that's too aggressive turns into confrontation, but a challenge that's woven naturally into conversation feels playful, confident, and intriguing. Maybe you tease her gently about something she said, without crossing the line into disrespect. Maybe you share an opinion she doesn't expect, and you stand by it calmly, without defensiveness. The point isn't to win, it's to show her that you're not afraid to be yourself in her presence. Psychologically, this taps into the reward uncertainty principle. When she doesn't always get immediate agreement or validation, her brain works harder to earn it. This keeps her emotionally invested because there's a sense of achievement when she feels your approval. It's not a game, it's human nature. The subtle challenge also creates space for mutual respect. When a woman knows you won't simply roll over to avoid disagreement, she sees you as an equal, not a follower. That's the type of man she can admire, trust, and feel genuine attraction toward. The real beauty of this principle is that it works even in long-term relationships. Many men lose their edge after months or years together, thinking the pursuit is over. But when you keep the dynamic alive through gentle challenges by keeping your individuality sharp, you prevent the slow drift into complacency. Here's the bottom line. If she never has to wonder where you stand, if she can predict every response you'll give, the spark fades. But when she knows you'll always be authentic, even if it means disagreeing, she'll lean in, curious about what's coming next. Now, I want you to drop this in the comments. I keep my edge. Say it as a commitment to never losing the part of you that makes you compelling in the first place. And in the next section, we're going to flip the script entirely, showing you how a man's ability to create emotional safety can make her open up in ways most men will never experience. Section 5. Emotional restraint. One of the most underrated traits that make a man deeply attractive is emotional restraint. It's not about being cold or distant. It's about mastering the ability to respond instead of react. When life or a woman throws something unexpected your way, your ability to keep your composure speaks louder than any words you could say. Emotional restraint isn't just about suppressing anger. It's also about not over-celebrating small wins, not collapsing when something goes wrong, and not letting her emotional highs and lows dictate your own. Women notice this. They can feel when a man is emotionally centered, and it creates a sense of stability that is rare and magnetic. Let's put this into a real-life example. Mark, 48, works in finance in Chicago. He's been dating Anna, 44, for about 3 months. One night over dinner, she brings up something from his past that could have been a sore spot, a business deal he lost years ago. Most men would instantly get defensive, either trying to justify themselves or shutting down the conversation entirely. But Mark doesn't flinch. He takes a sip of his wine, smiles slightly, and says, "That was a turning point for me. I learned more from that loss than I ever could have from a win." Then he moves the conversation forward. Anna notices his calm. She's testing, even if she doesn't realize it, probing to see if he'll lose his cool. When he doesn't, it sends a clear message. This is a man who isn't ruled by his emotions. That control doesn't feel like distance, it feels like strength. From a Stoic standpoint, emotional restraint is foundational. Seneca wrote, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." By keeping your emotions in check, you prevent yourself from building unnecessary suffering in your own mind, and you avoid spilling that turbulence into your relationships. Women, especially those who have lived enough life to recognize the value of maturity, appreciate this. They've seen men who let their emotions run wild. They've seen how quickly passion can turn into chaos. When they find a man who stays steady under pressure, they know they've found someone rare. This doesn't mean you have to be robotic. Restraint is not the absence of emotion, it's the control of it. It's the ability to feel deeply without being swept away. You can still express joy, passion, even vulnerability, but you do it in a measured, intentional way. That's what makes it powerful. And here's where most men fail. They think restraint is only needed in big dramatic moments. In reality, the small tests matter just as much. A slightly delayed text, a subtle comment meant to provoke you, an unexpected cancellation of plans. If you meet these moments with calm, you're sending a silent signal of strength every single time. Mark didn't become this way overnight. He built it through self-awareness, reflection, and practice the same way a Stoic philosopher would train his mind. He learned to recognize the space between stimulus and response, and he filled that space with choice instead of impulse. If you want to embody emotional restraint, start with the next time something irritates you. Pause, breathe, choose your response. Over time, you'll build a reputation as a man who is unshakable. And trust me, that's the kind of presence a woman doesn't forget. Now, drop this in the comments as a personal reminder. I control me. In the next section, we're going to explore something most men completely overlook: how giving just the right amount of attention at the right time can make her chase you without her even realizing it. Section 6. Rare attention. One of the most powerful things you can give a woman isn't constant attention, it's rare attention. That might sound counterintuitive, especially if you've been told to always make her feel special or show her how much you care. But here's the truth. Attention that's always available loses its impact. Attention that's rare becomes priceless. Think about it like this. If you could have your favorite meal every single day, it wouldn't be your favorite for long. The magic would fade. But if you only get it once in a while, it stays exciting, something you look forward to. The same principle applies to human connection. When you give a woman your undivided attention sparingly and with full presence when you do, it creates a contrast. She notices that when you're engaged, you're truly engaged. No distractions, no half-listening while scrolling your phone. You're locked in. That's rare in today's world, and she feels it. From a Stoic perspective, this is about valuing your time and where you place your focus. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think. Your time and attention are finite. When you treat them as such, you naturally become more selective about who receives them and when." This doesn't mean playing games. Rare attention isn't about intentionally withholding just to create scarcity. It's about living a full, rich life where your focus is spread across your mission, your health, your growth, and your relationships, not centered solely on one person. She becomes part of your world, not the whole of it. The impact of rare attention is twofold. First, it makes your moments together more memorable. If she knows you're not always available, she values the time she gets with you more deeply. Second, it quietly signals that you have a life beyond her, one filled with purpose and direction. And that's deeply attractive. Many men fall into the trap of overcompensating early on. They think constant check-ins, endless texting, and being available at every request will make her feel secure. But in reality, it often does the opposite. It can create a sense of pressure, or worse, boredom. Rare attention keeps the dynamic fresh. It leaves space for anticipation. She doesn't quite know when you'll reach out next, but when you do, she's fully tuned in. That element of unpredictability keeps her engaged, not because you're withholding, but because you're living fully. The discipline to practice rare attention also protects you from losing yourself in a relationship. It forces you to maintain your own identity, your own routines, your own goals. That balance isn't just good for you, it's good for her, because it keeps the attraction alive. It's worth noting that rare attention doesn't mean coldness. When you're with her, be fully present. Make her feel like, in that moment, nothing else matters. That level of focus is rare, and it leaves a lasting impression. Here's the takeaway. Attention is most valuable when it's earned and when it's real. Don't flood the market. Invest it wisely, and when you give it without distraction. Now, I want you to put this in the comments as a commitment. I make my time count. In the next section, we'll go into something even more magnetic, how controlled unpredictability keeps her drawn to you without her being able to explain why. Section 7. The chase. There's a reason the chase has been part of human attraction for as long as we've been around. It's not just some romantic movie trope, it's rooted in psychology. When something is too easy to get, we tend to value it less. When we have to work for it, invest in it, and wonder about it, our minds lock in deeper. Take Mike, a 42-year-old architect from Denver. After a divorce, he started dating again and quickly noticed a pattern. When he was overly available, replying instantly, agreeing to meet any time she asked, rearranging his life to fit hers, women seemed to lose interest fast. But when he kept living his life, stayed focused on his work and hobbies, and didn't bend his schedule every time someone called, the opposite happened. Women leaned in, they texted first. They initiated plans. Then there's Laura, 38, a marketing consultant who met Mike through friends. She told him later that one of the reasons she found him attractive was that she couldn't quite pin him down. Not in a frustrating way, but in a way that made her curious. He wasn't cold or dismissive. He just wasn't chasing her like every other guy she met. Instead, she felt like she was the one closing the gap. That's the essence of the chase in a healthy dynamic. You create space for her to step toward you. It's not about manipulation or games. It's about living with enough self-respect and purpose that you don't abandon your life to chase someone else's. When you're the one doing all the chasing, you communicate often without realizing it that your time, energy, and attention aren't as valuable. It sends the signal that she's the prize and you're hoping to be chosen. But when you flip that script, when you carry yourself as a man who has options and standards, you naturally become the prize in her eyes. The chase works because it engages her competitive instinct and her curiosity. If she's used to men flooding her with attention, your restraint stands out. And when she senses that you're not easily won over, her subconscious starts asking, what's so different about him? Why hasn't he tried harder? Do I need to earn this? That's when she starts moving toward you. From a Stoic angle, this is about controlling your impulses. As Seneca wrote, no man is free who is a slave to his body. That includes the impulse to drop everything and pursue the moment you feel attraction. Freedom is the ability to choose your actions, not be driven by instant emotion. When you exercise that restraint, you maintain control over the pace and direction of the connection. It's also about balance. If you pull back too much, you create distance that feels cold or disinterested. But if you always close the gap first, you remove the space where attraction builds. The sweet spot is allowing enough distance for her to feel the thrill of pursuit, while giving just enough warmth to let her know the door's open. This works in new dating situations and in established relationships. Even long-term partners crave that little sense of pursuit. If you stop creating it, everything becomes predictable, and predictability is the enemy of excitement. The chase isn't about running from her. It's about walking at your own pace and letting her catch up when she chooses. That way, when she does, it feels like she's investing in you, and investment deepens attraction. Now, I want you to drop this in the comments. I set the pace. Say it to remind yourself that you control the rhythm, not her or anyone else. And in the next section, we'll break down a move most men completely overlook, one that quietly sets you apart from 99% of guys without you even saying a word. Section 8. Curiosity through contrast. One of the most powerful forces in attraction is contrast. It's the difference between what she expects and what you actually give her. That gap is where curiosity lives, and curiosity is addictive. Here's the problem: most men collapse that gap immediately. They meet a woman, she shows some interest, and they rush to match her energy with complete openness and constant availability. They reveal every thought, every feeling, every plan. At first, she might appreciate the attention, but over time, it flattens the emotional experience. There's no texture, no unpredictability, no spark. Contrast in this context doesn't mean being hot one day and cold the next. That's chaos. True contrast means you show her different sides of yourself at different moments in a way that feels natural, not forced. You can be warm, engaging, and fully present when you're with her, but then also be completely absorbed in your own life when you're apart. That shift tells her you're not orbiting her world. You have your own gravity. When she's used to men trying to impress her every second, your ability to not perform becomes the contrast. When she's expecting predictable responses, your thoughtful pause instead of an instant reaction becomes the contrast. This works because humans are wired to notice change. A constant, unchanging signal fades into the background. But when the signal shifts, when you go from intense eye contact and deep conversation to a calm, centered silence, it pulls her attention back. She starts to wonder, what's on his mind? Why does he seem so composed? Does he feel the same way I do? That wondering is the hook. From a Stoic perspective, this is about practicing moderation and self-possession. Epictetus said, "It is not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." When you're steady, when your reactions are deliberate rather than automatic, you create a rhythm that others have to adapt to. That rhythm is part of the contrast. She can't predict your every move, so she leans in to watch. Contrast also applies to the way you handle emotions. Many men believe that expressing constant desire is the way to build attraction. In reality, a balance of desire and self-restraint is far more compelling. Desire shows you're human. Restraint shows you're in control of that humanity. It signals depth, and depth is rare. Imagine two scenarios. In one, every time she speaks, you respond with immediate enthusiasm, agreeing with everything she says. In the other, you listen intently, respond with curiosity, and sometimes you challenge her perspective respectfully without trying to dominate. The second creates contrast. It shows you're not afraid to stand on your own ground. That difference from the crowd makes you memorable. Curiosity through contrast also works over time. In longer interactions, it's about mixing lightness with depth. Maybe you have moments of playful teasing, followed by moments of genuine vulnerability, or periods where you're expressive, followed by periods where you're content in silence. The shifts keep her engaged because she's always discovering new layers. What you want to avoid is artificial contrast, acting distant or aloof just to get a reaction. That's manipulation, and it's easy to spot. Real contrast comes from living a full life, having varied moods and interests, and not compressing your entire personality into a single dating mode. When you master this, you stop being just another man in her social feed of predictable behavior. You become a mystery she wants to solve. And as long as she's curious, she's invested. Now, I want you to type this in the comments. I am the contrast. It's a reminder that you don't have to perform constantly to be interesting. You just have to be real and balanced. In the next section, we'll talk about a subtle yet powerful shift that turns even short interactions into moments she remembers long after they're over. Section 9. Controlled unpredictability. One of the fastest ways to keep a woman interested is to make sure she never feels like she has your entire playbook. That doesn't mean you should be chaotic or unreliable that will push her away. It's about being predictably stable, but with moments that catch her off guard just enough to keep her guessing. That's controlled unpredictability. Think about Tom, a 4-6-year-old architect from Denver. He's been casually seeing Melissa, a 4-2-year-old marketing consultant. From the start, Tom made it clear he has a full life, hiking trips with friends, late-night design projects, and weekends with his kids. Melissa likes that he's dependable, but she also notices something else. Sometimes he texts her first thing in the morning with a witty comment about something she mentioned days ago. Other times, he lets a day pass without any contact, then surprises her with an invitation to a local jazz bar. She can rely on his character, but she can't predict his every move. This balance makes interactions more exciting. If she knows exactly when you'll call, what you'll say, and how you'll respond, her mind stops engaging. The brain craves novelty. By mixing in the occasional unexpected gesture or change of rhythm, you keep her attention hooked, not through manipulation, but through genuine variety in how you live and interact. The key is in the controlled part. If Tom suddenly disappeared for a week with no explanation, that wouldn't create attraction, it would create anxiety. But by spacing out his attention naturally, based on his own life and priorities, he shows Melissa that she's important, but not the center of his world. That subtle tension is magnetic. Controlled unpredictability also shows confidence. Men who are insecure tend to overcompensate with constant reassurance, daily check-ins, endless compliments, and over-the-top gestures. At first, that feels flattering, but soon it becomes routine. In contrast, men who are secure don't feel the need to fill every silence. They know that a little space makes the moments together more meaningful. From a psychological perspective, this taps into intermittent reinforcement, the same principle that keeps people playing slot machines. You don't win every time, but when you do, it's memorable. In relationships, it means your moments of attention and intimacy stand out more because they aren't on a fixed schedule. From a Stoic standpoint, it's about living with intention rather than impulse. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Controlled unpredictability is exactly that, the ability to choose your actions deliberately rather than following a script driven by fear of losing her. You're not withholding attention to punish her, you're allowing the relationship to breathe. This also extends beyond communication. It can be the way you plan dates. One evening, you might take her to her favorite Italian restaurant. The next time, you might suggest an art gallery she's never visited. You're consistent in your presence, but varied in your expression. Melissa once told Tom she loved how he could be relaxed and low-key one night, then completely spontaneous the next. That's the sweet spot. She feels safe with him, but she's never bored. And boredom is the real enemy of desire. Here's the takeaway. Predictability builds trust. Unpredictability fuels passion. Blend them, and you get a connection that feels both secure and exciting. Drop this in the comments. I keep her guessing. It's your reminder that mystery isn't about playing games, it's about living in a way that keeps the people around you curious. In the next section, we'll talk about the final, defining trait that separates men she forgets from men she can't get out of her head. Section 10. The man she imagines. Every woman, whether she admits it or not, has a version of you in her mind. Not just who you are right now, but who she thinks you could be. This imagined man is a mix of reality, her desires, and her fantasies. And here's the interesting part. Attraction often has more to do with that man than the one she sees standing in front of her. This isn't about pretending to be someone you're not. It's about understanding that perception plays a huge role in attraction. Women are naturally drawn to potential, the idea that you have depth she hasn't fully explored, layers she hasn't yet uncovered. If you make yourself completely knowable too soon, she has nothing left to imagine, and the intrigue fades. Picture this. You're on a date, and instead of spilling your entire life story in the first hour, you leave certain things unsaid. Not in a deceptive way, but in a way that lets her wonder. You share moments, stories, and opinions, but you don't over-explain every choice or feeling. She's left with pieces of the puzzle, and her mind does the rest, filling in the gaps with the best possible version of you. In her mind, she starts building this image. Confident, self-reliant, capable of passion but not ruled by it. She imagines how you'd handle success, how you'd respond under pressure, how you'd treat her when the rest of the world isn't watching. And every time she wonders, every time she tries to fill in those blanks, she invests more in the idea of you. The Stoics understood this dynamic in a different context. Epictetus once said, "First say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do." If you carry yourself with a clear sense of who you are and who you aim to be, you naturally align with the man she imagines. You're not scrambling to impress. You're living in a way that commands respect and interest without chasing it. There's also a psychological reason why the imagined man holds so much weight. Our brains respond more strongly to mystery and anticipation than to certainty. It's the same reason a movie trailer can feel more exciting than the film itself. The mind fills in the unknown with possibility. In relationships, when she can project her ideal qualities onto you, she's emotionally engaging with a version of you that may even be more attractive than reality. But here's the catch. If the reality of you doesn't match enough of the imagined version, the attraction collapses. You can't rely on mystery alone. You have to live up to the core of what she sees: integrity, self-respect, emotional stability. If you're mysterious but unreliable, she won't find that appealing, she'll find it frustrating. So, how do you become this man without falling into the trap of performance? By living a life that's genuinely worth imagining. Have passions outside of her, develop skills, pursue goals, cultivate friendships, and stand by your principles. These are the things that give her mind fuel to work with when she's building that image of you. When you do this right, she doesn't just see the man across from her, she feels the pull of the man she thinks you might be, and that's a powerful place to be. Because when she's imagining you, she's thinking about you, and when she's thinking about you, she's investing in you, even in your absence. Attraction isn't just about what you show, it's about what you allow her to dream about. And the man she imagines, if you live with enough depth, purpose, and quiet confidence, will always keep her curious, drawn in, and wanting more. So here's the truth, brother. Most men spend their lives chasing, explaining, and overcompensating, when what really draws a woman in is a man who lives with purpose, calm, and quiet strength. When you carry yourself this way, you don't have to beg for attention, you naturally command it. If today's video gave you a new way to see yourself and your relationships, then stick with me. This channel is built for men like you, men who want to live with more control, more clarity, and more respect. Go ahead and subscribe right now, because tomorrow we're diving into another Stoic principle that could completely shift the way you handle women, challenges, and life itself. Thanks for watching, and remember, control yourself, shape your life, and the rest will follow. I'll see you tomorrow.